I want to pass it on to Norma. She is an incredible coach. She has her own business. She manages a few things she will share with us today. So Norma, take it away and just let us know, hey, how did you get started? How did you think about doing this journey of being in wellness and all that it brings?
Awesome. Thank you, first of all, for having me here. I'm so honored to be your guest. So it all started back in, I would say, 2013. I originally from the Bronx, born and raised, and I get to Jersey. I have no friends, no family. And I'm like, what am I going to do with my spare time if I'm not obviously with the kids or with my husband? And I'm like, that time could be spent with them, but I also need time for myself. And it's so funny that Eneri pointed out time for yourself. And I was seeking that because I was just being consumed by other things. So I said, okay. So I started all by going to the gym. I signed up for a membership, didn't step into a gym, never in my life. And it could be so intimidating when you go into a gym and you're like, what are all these things? These people are lifting this way. So I could see why the gym could be intimidating for some. If home workouts are for you, by all means, that works as well. So for me, it started back then, started looking into living a healthy lifestyle. I wanted to somewhat break any generational ignorance and curse and whatever it is, however you want to put it. Coming from a family that suffers from diabetes and all those other things, I wanted to learn not to have to go that route. And thank God I passed the mark of 34 because everyone hits in their 30s. And then there goes the sweetness of the diabetes coming in. And for sure, I started looking more and more into like getting better. But obviously, I was going to the gym, but with no good nutrition. So for me, it was more about learning how to eat, what to eat, and how to make life easier. Because if it's easy for me, I'm all for it. So fast forward to 2016, I was introduced to a nutrition, which I was always on the go. I moved to Jersey, but still commuted to New York to work. And I never had breakfast, right? The first thing we say is never skip breakfast or whatever the case is. It's what you feed your body once you break your fast. Like what you feed your body once you break your fast is what you're going to continue to crave all day. And what is it that we normally get to our desk? A coffee, a muffin, or a bagel, the fastest thing you can get your hands on. And not knowing this back then, that would be the first thing I'd go to. And then throughout the day, I'm like eating not so healthy, but yet again, I'm trying to live a healthy lifestyle, going to the gym. How does that work? It didn't happen. So I got introduced to the nutrition and I found it so amazing. I was like, wait, I could do this in this short period of time. And my result was what got me to fall in love with the brand, right? With the company. The product is Herbalife. So I went ahead and kept doing that. And the first 90 days, I had amazing results, not knowing that there was a business behind this. So I'm just consuming the products. My husband's like, yeah, I'll join you. Yeah, just support. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And here we are. Next thing you know, I'm here in at home because I had to have taken a leave of absence because I had gotten sick. And the point was how the business landed in my lap is just I received a check in the mail. And I was like in the worst position with my personal bank account. And I was like, I have to take a leave of absence. My bills are not going to be met. And this is where you let go of pride and think you're Miss Independent. When you become one, right? And I had to sit down with my husband and have that financial conversation that is so uncomfortable. And I said, okay, from here on out, we have to do everything as one, right? We were not even married yet. And I was like, all right, this is what's happening. This is what it is. And fast forward really quick, he comes and he's like, hey, did you get something in the mail? It looks like a check. And I was like, really, Christopher, you're really being funny because I'm not expecting any check. And the way my finances are set up right now, I could really use one, but that's not it. So as I opened the mail, I was like, wait, I called my coach and I was like, hey, they just sent me a check. I didn't return anything, any refund for any reason. And he was like, no, you've been sharing what you're doing and people have been logging on to your website And that's how things are coming about. I was not even into it. I'm like, I work, I have a job, I don't need no, but here goes this check. And I'm like, oh, wait, you mean I could do this from the comfort of my home while being present with my daughter? So that came about. I started the business just being a consumer. And that came along. And I just started helping people. I started feeling good. I started educating myself, going to trainings, learning more. So when you crave something, you just want to dive into what it is. Just as we dive deep into the word, like we want to know more about Jesus. We want to know how we handle our life with this manual, right? Called the Bible. And it was just amazing. And then from there, things started just flourishing. My biggest thing was becoming an entrepreneur on a leave of absence, managing my time. That was like out the door. I could be an excellent worker. I can be an excellent employee when it comes to having structure, but why couldn't I have structure for myself? So I started doing things here and there. I buy like 20 million planners and did not use one. Like I started probably 1 week, and then by the second or third week is out the door. And I asked myself, I'm like, why can't I be consistent with this? I'm being consistent with that. When it started hitting me where my time was going, my mentor was like, all right, Norma, I'm like, my checks are going down. Why are my checks going down? She's like, we're going to have a sit down. We're going to look at where your time is going. So when I evaluated my time was like doing laundry, running around. Everybody had access to me because I was home. So I'm like, all right, when I started really taking it serious, now I'm like, I need you to respect that I'm not home. I'm home, but not home. 9 to 5, I'm working. So when I started like giving them that, letting them know, hey, I have a business now. It needs to be respected. Now things are starting to get better. Time management started getting a little better, not exactly the way we want it to be as an entrepreneur, because we all know that we could set a schedule and a to-do list, and that can go out the door. Like I started to not do a to-do list. I started doing a got it done list because I was getting frustrated not being able to get through my to-do list. And I'm like, I'm going back and I'm like, I can't even check off 3 things. So what was helping me feel better about myself was I got it done. Okay. It may sound tedious, but I'm like, all right, I got this done, write it down, got that done, write it down. And then at the end of the night, write down what I can possibly get done. Again, the to-do list. But I think for me was more so feeling more accomplished about getting it done. So with that, I started now taking on more clients, and it was a struggle because some are not serious about it. They want a quick fix, right? And I think for most of us here that do take clientele in, it's hard because one, they don't want to commit to what they say they want to do, right? You commit for the first couple weeks, but what happens when you want to make this a lifestyle, right? So it was more keeping them accountable. And that's what I think, Lillian, I'm going to talk to you on the sidelines, that whoever's looking to launch, having an accountability partner to check in and be like, hey, girl, did you get this done? That was huge for me. So when I set my monthly goals, my coach will check on me every week. That was kind of like the mindset. The first 90 days for me were rough because I was pretty much doing it on my own. So setting 90-day plans to kind of like get you through it was what helped me with setting the intention of, okay, if I want to make X amount of money this month, I'm breaking it down to the penny. How many clients am I going to be able to serve? How many clients am I going to be able to reach? Whether it is just to get them started, teach them something. And then from there on, it doesn't have to be that person. It could be like, hey, this is not for me right now, but I have such and such that it is really interested. And it goes on from there. From there on, I went to go ahead and open up my storefront, which that was like a dream come true. But in all reality, it was scary. It was scary to the sense where I'm like, oh my God, like as I was signing my permits and getting all these licenses, and I'm like, okay, like, is it really going to take, I'm going to be here. I'm like having to open up a store, and it was a smoothie cafe. And I'm like, okay. So because the opportunity was amazing, the cost and everything, we jumped on it, not knowing obviously our neighbor COVID was going to come in and do whatever it did. But I think with this experience, although I felt as if it were a failure then, now I feel so accomplished because no one in my family has done it. I've been able to say I try to show my daughter what entrepreneurship is, because that's not something that was taught to me. And it's funny, the other day she went in on Rampage when the whole lash technician stuff came out, and she made me buy her all these things for her Sweet 16 because due to COVID, she didn't have one. So I was like, whatever you want, whatever it is. So long story short, she came out and she was like, Mom, you know what? I think I'm going to really take this last course serious. I'm going to really put it to use because I want to be my own boss. And I was like, well, we're really not our own boss. We have our clients and we manage things. So we still have people that we have to report to, kind of. So with showing her that, and being able to expose her to this and being present, like she would be, because she was homeschooled as well, she would be able to like serve. So not only was it a business, but we were serving the community. So the fact that I was able to teach her that part of it, and not always, oh, my mom has a business, oh, my mom has this and that, and we could reap the benefits of it. No, you're going to come and work with me so that you can know what it is to serve others. So that ended up coming to a short close because of COVID and all that stuff. So I wasn't even able. And again, God has a way of working things, because in that time, it was just my daughter, my husband, and my bonus daughter attending the business. So I was there the majority of the time, but all the time. And it came to a point where I was burning out, right? And I was like, this is really tough. Like, if I went into the business with other people and they kind of backed out. So I was like, okay, I'm going to still go for it because this is what I want. This is what I was put in my heart, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. So at that burning point, God rescued me, where unfortunately COVID happened, but my mom got sick. So during that time, everything started shutting down. I was able to speak to the landlord and say, hey, what are we going to do? This is a 5-year lease I signed. So is it possible? Like, what is going to go on? And I just prayed over it. And God had such, like, he had his hands so much on it that I couldn't even, the guy didn't even hesitate. He was like, all right, fine. Like, just, you won't get your deposit back. I was like, that's fine. Like, imagine being stuck somewhere where, you didn't know what tomorrow was going to be. And I was able to release that, take that lease. The beauty of it is that I was still able to maintain my clientele online, because we all know Wi-Fi money is Wi-Fi money. You could just do everything as long as you have Wi-Fi. And with that being said, it came to a bittersweet, and I did go into my dark moment where it was just like, I'm a failure, the shame, like the guilt and all this stuff. And thank God for the mentors and the people that God has put in my life. They were like, no. And not until that outside person comes in and shows you, hey, do you know that you were the first one to even open up a business or own a business? Like, no one in your family. So it was kind of like a blessing, where I was like, okay, I did this, and not to have it checked off the box, but to say it is possible. This is not the first. I mean, this is the first, but it's not your last. So for me, that was something that was really impactful in my family, because even my husband, he was like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to do it scared. And that's what the last call we spoke about. It was like, I did it scared. I did everything scared, but scared in the sense of having a second thought. I know that God was watching over me and guiding me, but it's still that sense of emotion that is uncontrollable, right? So with that part of me going into my depression and falling into a funk and everything else, led me to just evolve more because I needed to learn more. Like, when we go through the dark times, we don't look at it as if, like, now I could look back and say, thank God, because had it not been for that moment, I wouldn't be able to speak or tell others on how to overcome or have compassion for someone. Oh, you just had a business. What do you mean you failed or whatever? Now I have more compassion of someone telling me, wow, this didn't work out, and saying, I know how it feels, because it's tough to start something and feel like you didn't finish. So during that time, I just took the time off. I still would see my clients, but I took a step back from the business where I wasn't fully focused. So during the time, like 2021 was a still moment for me. I was sad because I wasn't getting the check that I was getting. I wasn't getting the money, but at that point I was just like, the money's not doing anything for me. I just need to be still. And God was like, just be still, focus on you, be still and focus on you. And it was my way of connecting back with him in such, how can I say, in such a time where it's just like nothing else mattered. Nothing else mattered because it was just about me and him. It was to reconnect, because I had lost that sense throughout the process of, taking care of the business and doing everything, whatever. And in 2022, now, I took a course where it was also poured onto myself. It was like September to November. And that's where, within that time period, and it's so funny, I had just started Transform. I started Church Alive in July, and then everything, so much had just happened that things just kept evolving. And I'm like, wow, like, now this is a whole different feeling. Like, never mind having your own business and doing what you're doing, but now God is the center of my life, my business, my everything. So not until, because I've been a believer, but it wasn't until I surrendered it all and I said, God, you show me the way. You led me to believe that whatever you have for me is going to be better, because whatever was gone, it just was there temporarily, right? And I moved forward, where this season in my life, with my business or anything that I'm launching, if it doesn't have to do with faith or God, I don't want it. And that led me to birth my Transform podcast, which was something that was put in my heart like 2-3 years ago. And I'm like, not ready. And I went ahead and I, again, when you have women that are thriving with you and holding you accountable and giving you that push, it makes the process easier. One, not only are you waiting for God to go ahead. Not only are you waiting for God to go ahead and lead the way and tell you, hey, now it's the time. Because I didn't ask God permission for opening my storefront. And that was something that I look back now and I'm like, again, it's an experience. So I could say, wow, I did it. I'm happy. But if I would have asked God, is this your will for me to open this storefront? I think things maybe would have been, but I don't live with the what ifs anymore, because he has given me the peace in my heart to say, you did it, daughter, move forward. That's it. So for me, it's being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster. I don't regret it. I am blessed and honored to have met so many different entrepreneur women, right? Back then, it's just like, go to school, get a college degree, and kudos to those that go to college. I am all for you. It's just not for me. I am like a self-taught person. I can do any personal development, any videos on my own time, things that I can manage. But again, time management. How am I dedicating my time to that? So I wrote here that I came across something. Sometimes procrastination is the result of laziness. And I started catching myself being very lazy when I wasn't looking into my day-to-day focus and having that time management where I was like, okay, back to them respecting my 9 to 5. Like, this is where it is. So blocking that time, if it was from 9 to 11 that I was just going to focus on, whether it was social media, it was just creating content and trying to use, what is that app I use? Is to like kind of like preset so that you could set the timer and it'll post for you. So those things like preparing the night before, like be prepare so that you don't prepare to fail, kind of like leaving everything set. So if in that time is that time that I'm going to work on is a power hour, I'm going to turn off all notifications. I'm not going to focus on anything else but with that, and working in times of like short periods, not sitting there for, yes, that one, those who plan to fail. Reverse. Those who plan not to fail. So having that time slot to just prepare for those things, and also to not get distracted, right? There's a saying like a multitasker. You really can't multitask when you're trying to execute a project. You have to just focus on that project. And I'm only saying this from experience that I've learned. And for some odd reason, I tend to like to work under pressure. I'm like, all right, deadline is at 12. I'm working at it at like 10:59. And I'm like, no, I got an hour, when you had all this time in the world. And sad to say, I'd be telling my kids, why didn't you tell me you had this project like 2 weeks ago and you're telling me the night before, kind of thing. But I'm guilty of that, of waiting for the last minute. And I learned to do everything with love. And I think once I've changed, like, saying that I do everything with love is because I don't want to feel frustrated and aggravated to lead another way, and it just doesn't come out the right way. For me, if I'm doing something, I can't do something out of like, oh, I got to do this. It's just not going to come out right. So back to the whole time management, for me was something that was hard because I still fail at it sometimes. I'm like, okay, I have this, I'm going to have this time block, but it doesn't always go that way. Do I try to respect it? Yes, if I respect my business the way I should. And from there on out, it was that I learned to just set the time aside for my business, set the time aside for my family, obviously for God, most of all, importantly, at the beginning, before I start my business in the day, and time for myself. It might seem like it's at the bottom of the list, but I can't get back to the top of the list if I don't refill myself. Like, it's like our phones. We remember to charge them at night so that it could be ready for you in the morning. So why not think of ourselves? Let me recharge myself, whether it's just that time alone, reading a devotional, soaking in the tub, lighting up the candle, having that calming sleepy tea, or whatever the case is. But it's just your time to unwind, pick up your favorite book. So those little things throughout these past 7 to 8 years, a little bit more, has been something that I've been practicing. Do I practice it every day? No. But I remind myself, hey, remember that when you're feeling burnt out, you don't want to get to the point of feeling burnt out. And I think that was what stuck out to me the most, when I was just like, I'm done. Like, this can't, I don't find passion for this anymore. And really quick to track back, I did lose my passion at one point. I had to ask my mentor, I was like, why am I feeling like this? And I read the book of Rick Warren, Finding Your Purpose. I had to like see, why on earth am I here? Right. And I still have the passion that I have for health and wellness because of what I believe in, right? Everyone should be able to live a healthy and active lifestyle at whatever age. So I think for me is more of passing it on to my children's children, and allowing us to enjoy the grandkids if we're not living a healthy and active lifestyle. And for me, it's showing people on how to feel good about themselves. at the end of the day, women empowerment and all that other stuff comes in hand. But if you're not feeling good from the inside, how can you look good in the outside, right? Because you could look amazing, but be so destroyed in the inside. So if anyone has any questions, I can take a break right now. Because if not, go on and on.
I'm just typing that last thing that you say. If you're not feeling good on the inside,
you could look amazing on the outside, but if you feel horrible on the inside, like how could you process it?
I was trying to think of another way to say it, but yeah, we work from like the inside out. If we're not feeling our best, we don't put our best foot forward, sort of. And it affects everything we do. It affects our speech. It affects our character. It affects our thinking. And those are the things, especially as women, we need to be very careful with, right? And I want to just kind of back up a little bit about the point where you lost your passion and talking about how passion, really purpose, it's what's important, because purpose drives your passion. And if you don't know what your purpose is, that oftentimes gets you off kilter. And if you've been working at something and things are going wrong and etc., like you said, that's when you lost your passion, because then you start questioning your purpose. Yeah. And then, so that's where you have to then go back and have people, the importance of mentors and people who will keep you accountable. It's so important for us, because they'll remind us of our why, right? I have my why on the wall. Oh, actually it fell down, but on the wall over there on my core why, which funny enough, I got it through a program when I was working in corporate that helped me find what my purpose was. And that's to ignite positive change in others so that they can in turn be that spark for someone else. Like that I can just think about, because it's so ingrained in me. And when I look back and saw, wow, this is what I've been doing for years, I just had not put kind of a phrase around it. But once I put that phrase around it, and it took me a while, because it's just finding the right words that kind of resonated with me and who I am. Oh, it's so cute. See the baby over there.
He's like, hello, I'm here. I've been here for time.
I get easily sidetracked when there's babies. So what does that look like for you? What is your purpose? Know your purpose. And if you don't know, call me up. I'll help you figure it out, because it's so important to know what your purpose is, because purpose drives. Purpose fuels you. Purpose, as Norma said, you feel passionate. And you can tell when you're talking about something, like when you're in the wrong field, I'm doing this and that. Like your whole mannerism, your facial expression, everything changes. But when you're talking about your purpose, like when I'm talking about helping people get unstuck, like my face, I know lights up, because that's where I find joy and fulfillment. Yeah. That's where, and I know it's part of what God has given me to, as a gift to exercise and play out and help for his kingdom. Yes. But like, so when you know your purpose, it just helps fuel everything within you. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have pitfalls or hard times. There may be certain things in your life that need to be shifted. And that's why it's so important. And it's Norma, you were mentioning how you got into the whole business of then actually having an actual location where you had this cafe and you had people that were helping you, and all the ups and downs that went with that. So it's not to say it's not going to be hard. We're going to have those moments. And there may be things that happen like COVID that were totally outside of your control, but actually affected your business, affected you, just the way everything kind of came about. But those are still lessons learned. Though at the time, and thank you for sharing that and being so open and vulnerable with us. I just think that's just amazing, courageous of you to do that. And I know this will help the women in this forum, that we are going to have hard times, that you are going to have times where you feel depressed because things didn't go the way you expected, and you may question it. I always say, give it back to God, because He's got us. He's our Heavenly Father who wants nothing but the best for us. And oftentimes, as you say, we do things, but we don't ask him. for permission. And then we wonder, well, why didn't this work out? Because he may not have wanted that for you. But he's a loving and gracious daddy that he's going to let us do it, right?
Yeah.
But he's still so loving and gracious that he's there waiting with open arms when we come back. It's like, okay, I need help with this. Let's say, for instance, you go down a road that in the middle, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. He will still help you pivot. He still loves you. He still has grace on us, and nothing is wasted. And I think I've said this on every call, because he doesn't waste our tears. They're not wasted. He doesn't waste those lessons learned. If we learn the lesson, we'll do better next time. And then we can share it with others like Norma did today. So thank you for that. But I want to open it up to questions. Anybody has any questions for Norma on anything that she spoke of or something that she may not have, and you may have a question. We'll figure it out. Go ahead, Lenny.
I want to first make a couple of comments and maybe have a question at the end. So thank you for your candor, for your just vulnerability, for sharing your story. You made a lot of great points regarding which I resonated with, which number one, time management. I know for me and my thought of starting my own side business, it took me months before I even took that first step, right? Because I was afraid, I was, in doubt and all these things, and just doing it afraid, which is one of the other points that you talked about. And even in these calls, just giving each other tips on how to go about taking that first step, doing it afraid, which can be as easy as, I just bought a to-do planner, right? Just visually seeing, hey, these are the things that I need to get done. And that was one of them, just taking that first step, right, into getting my license was so huge. So time management, I definitely resonated. And I love your perseverance through everything that you endured, your ups and downs in setting up your career. In the end, you persevered. You got through it. You overcame all your hurdles, and even questioning, like, what is my purpose, right? You sought out, what that could be for you when you found yourself like, losing your passion or whatever. Again, perseverance. So I appreciate that about you. And thank you for sharing all that you have. Power hour. I like that. The power hour, just focusing and turning off everything and just sticking to what you need to get done. So I may implement that too. Power hour, just shut everything off.
And
right?
even
That could be a
like
distraction.
getting someone that's kind of like in the same field, or just in general, like, hey, Lenny, I'm going to get on this call. Like, even just hold yourself accountable, be on a Zoom call with that person and know that you're not moving nowhere, but just focusing on that you're doing right in that hour.
Yeah, turning off all distractions and focusing on what's most important in that moment. That's so good. And I love how you are setting the example for your daughters, your children, and then building their own businesses, and how to go about doing that. They see that you have not quit, so they're not going to, quit either. You're setting that example and that platform for them. So that's amazing. So thank you again. I think my one question is, if you haven't already said it, because you made a lot of good points. How did you, I guess, were there other methods you used to overcome like moments of, doubt, self-doubt, or feeling afraid? Did you, do anything else to kind of get through those hurdles, those tough moments?
Yeah, it was definitely something that I seeked mentorship. I seek God, and I seek staying accountable with someone that is like, you're going to do it. You're going to make it through. Because I think sometimes, although we might not need it, that reassurance of saying, hey, you got this, right? You're going to get through it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You're going to fail, learn from that lesson, and move forward. Not being afraid to fail is the biggest lesson that I learned. Because if I don't fail, I didn't try. So I think by trying, even if you fail, that, again, you're not going to have that what if. Oh, what if I would have tried it this way? Or what if I would have tried it that way? Or how far I would have been in the business if I would have started when I said I was going to start. That kind of stuff. So I think that for me was seeking those three things: God, mentorship, and that friend that's going to be like, no, girl, get moving. Like, no, you told me you were going to finish that chapter. Let's talk about that chapter one. That kind of thing. You know, sometimes we have to reevaluate our circle where excuse me, remind me of my puppies eating tissue. Reevaluate our circle where, are you my friend or are you my hey girlfriend, where you're not pushing me enough to say, oh, let me applaud you. Yes, girl, let's launch that business. Let's get moving. Not that friend is like, oh, she's launching a business. Yeah, I don't know about that, because she's not doing that.
Yeah. Yep.
So that is something that I see, that I evaluated my circle.
Yeah. That's so good.
We are, you know, the five that we surround ourselves with. And my five, I had to reevaluate a little something. But again, if they're not clapping for you, they hating.
Yeah.
So
that's so good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's great. Anyone else have a question for Norma?
I'm not taking for you.
I think Marie made some good comments in the group.
Yeah, I saw. She said, so true, Norma, so good. Yeah, she's speaking truth when it comes to that. And Lillian said, yes, we need more of that. Others will help us and we can use their motivation and their knowledge and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yep. Natalie, thanks for joining. I know you have to jump off.
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys for sharing.
Yeah, no, it's so good. Thank you. Yeah, it's so many great nuggets. Thank you, Norma. I mean, there's things that we've reiterated here at the Brew. I think pretty much with everyone that's spoken so far, because so many things are the norm. And if we just go with the norm, we'll never take that step. So we need to get outside of the naysayers. When you know in your heart that it is something that God placed there, is something that you are driven, that you know, just do it, even if it's afraid, because what if it is a success? And if you listen to John Maxwell talks about this a lot. Some of his mentors that have been amazing, they failed like hundreds of times, but it's because that thing may not be for you. But what if it's something else? Yeah, Marie, go ahead.
Hi, Eneri. I don't have a question, but just wanted to share something that I saw a couple days ago. So this guy talking about like businesses and how there's people that are going to be negative or say like, oh, you're too expensive or your products are too expensive. And he says, instead of saying like, yes, but blah, 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 he says, change that to yes. And the reason why, you know, because then you're not downgrading your services or your products. Good. You're saying like, yes. And the reason why is because of this. But when we say like, yes, but it's like, you're already downgrading it. They're already like lose interest because they're like, yeah, whatever. But when they hear you say like, yes, and you give them the reason, now they feel like, you know, more engaged, like, oh, wow. Like, you know, like this has value.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like pretty cool that I heard that. Cause you know, sometimes people say that, like, if I'm at a pop-up shop or something like that, like, you know, you have everyone giving their opinion, but we should never downgrade like what we're bringing to the table, you know?
Absolutely.
That's excellent.
That's all I wanted to share.
That's really good. And it's so funny that you say expensive, because you get what you pay for. You get good quality. What you get less expensive is not going to be the greatest.
Exactly.
There's a Spanish saying, and Eneri, translate it if you can. Lo barato sale caro.
Yeah.
The cheap comes out expensive. And I always, when I have a new client coming on board, you know, I go through the evaluation and stuff. And I ask what they're working with. You know, you don't never know nobody's bank account. So what do you think you could invest in yourself? And it's more like, do you want to invest in this or hospital bill? Not to say that this cures or does anything to prevent any illnesses, but I think it's more of the investing part. Wouldn't you want to invest? You're investing in a nice car that's going to take you from point A to point B. Yeah. So why not invest in yourself? You are that moving vehicle, right? So
exactly. Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, because there's people that can say, well, I can go to ShopRite and buy like coffee like really cheap. So why are you know? And it's about the quality. It's about where it's coming from. It's not like basic coffee. You know what I mean? So I just thought
stay true to your brand and stand behind what it is that you have.
Yeah.
Right. So It's so true.
Yeah, that's so good. Anyone else have another question, comment?
One last thing I wrote down that from Rick Warren is time is your most precious gift because you only have a set amount of it.
Yeah.
We might not know what tomorrow brings, and tomorrow is we don't know about tomorrow. We could only deal with the seconds and the minutes that we have in front of us right now. And we just got to do what we have to do. An exercise that I did was write my own eulogy. I don't know if you guys ever wrote this, but it was part of that 12-week program. It was writing your eulogy where, what would people say, right? What would I think is, oh my goodness, I forget this guy's name. Anyway, he writes, you're on your deathbed and, what are you going to stand is like you're standing looking at yourself on your deathbed. And what are you going to tell yourself? You wish you would have done all these things, but yet again, you don't have the time and opportunity anymore.
Yeah, that's so good. We did something similar in my job years ago. And it was that writing your eulogy, what would you want someone to say when you pass? And for me, it was very eye-opening. And it was around this, helping people. So remember that. It's like we all say, if I could summarize today's call, because we have a minute left, based on mainly what Norma said and some of the inputs I had, and just in general from everyone, was God, mentorship, accountability, time management.
Love it.
If you got nothing else from this call, those 4 things that will help you daily to have balance, to be refueled. We need God to have balance, time management, to go on forward, mentorship, accountability. Sometimes we don't want that accountability, but if needed, if we really want to succeed, if we really want to move forward, if we really want to do these goals, right? And if we really want to look back and say, man, look what I've accomplished, not for pride, but as yielding those gifts correctly that God has given you. I think that sums it up for me. And hopefully it does the same for you. So thank you all.
If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out. If you need accountability on time management, I can help. I mean, again, it took me a long time to get it together, but I'm still working on it. I'm always a work in progress. So
yeah, and it's a process. It's a process, and it's just building that habit muscle.
Yep.
Don't knock yourself down. You didn't complete it, but tomorrow you will. Do one extra. So again, thank you all. We are 1 minute over. I sent you guys all the link to Norma's information. Feel free to look her up. And thanks again, Norma. Thank you guys.